An article was posted onto the subreddit, and I'm actually surprised I found this on the subreddit, not the website first, but it was posted. This Week in Video Games made an article about Star Citizen, and I don't know about you guys, but I love SkillUp. I got a little defensive. I came in here because people were like, "Oh, I don't know this website. It's going to be filled with ads," and I genuinely love what they've done with this website. This is, for those who don't know, SkillUp, very popular YouTuber, does a lot of gaming content on YouTube. I personally watch his videos every week, have been for more than half a decade, I would say. They cover games, and they started this website as a way to cover games without ads, straightforward journalism. And I would highly suggest, folks, if you want straight game news, this is a great place to bookmark. Somebody actually complained in here saying that they didn't want to click on somewhere that had ads or whatever. I think it's valiant that they try to do it without ads. That being said, they did an article on Star Citizen that has some really interesting stuff in it. For one, Chris comes out and says, no hard date for 1.0. Another, he does kind of hedge on saying whether or not Squadron 42 is coming out this year. This is an interview from somebody who covers gaming at large and entered the Star Citizen community, talked to Star Citizen streamers, creators, players, regular players, talked to Chris Roberts, and did some due diligence reporting to talk about whether or not this is actually turning into a game and where it is. So I want to take you through this and just cover some of the highlights. Big shout out to Edmond Tran for taking the opportunity to do this, and it seems like this is some actual good journalism in terms of going out and getting information that other people don't have. Let's start with the big one. He literally asked questions like, when is Star Citizen coming out? And Chris Roberts answered, well, we don't have a hard date for 1.0. Let's go back to the article from last year. In this article, he says that the official launch version is now promised for 2027, 2028. I don't remember ever confirming whether or not that was a number that actually came out of Chris's mouth, but this is a direct quote. Nope, not this. This. That's a direct quote. So this is the new thinking. And whether you, don't set your dates, right? Don't set your dates based on what's coming out about what Chris says or what Chris says. I would just expect that the game's not coming for another couple years. Or the author says it's the expected response for those who aren't close to the project. This is one of the first things you learn about it. As a joke or a fact, depending on who you ask, Star Citizen is a game that is probably never going to be finished. And that's actually kind of tracking with what we hear people say. He says, Squadron itself is a project that has also been delayed multiple times, but Roberts says that the aforementioned advancements in technology and how the team was developing and improving Star Citizen also affected how they inevitably built the campaign. Quote, we're going to get Squadron out first. The plan is for the end of this year, but there is a certain thing in the industry that we, like everyone else, have to pay attention to. So I can't 100% guarantee it. Again, it's hedging. I think I understand everybody wanting there to be a 100% guarantee at this point. I definitely would prefer if he was like, yes, it's happening. We're good. But that is the way it is. He's hinting at Rockstar's Grand Theft Auto 6 releasing in November. After that, we'll do the 1.0 push. So Squadron first, 1.0 push after that, but we already can feel on the day-to-day that the 1.0 push is kind of happening. Hinting at Grand Theft Auto 6 being something to keep track of, a lot of people's natural reaction to saying that Grand Theft Auto 6 is going to affect Squadron 42's launch is that they're on different platforms, they're different genres. It doesn't matter. Advertising dollars go so far. And Grand Theft Auto is probably going to start their marketing in the next month. And advertising dollars are going to go up when that happens. So it's possible to get drowned out in terms of noise. At this point, I can't imagine that your game release is actually going to depend on that. I think at this point, you need to assume Grand Theft Auto 6 is coming out and plan around that as best you can. He goes on to say the actual roadmap of what features will be in the commercial version, it's hard to say because Star Citizen is never going to be finished. Hey, that sounds wildly like what he said here. Yeah, so Chris even says that kind of stuff. We'll keep adding features and content because it's essentially just a living universe. That's not unlike how several live services games operate in 2026, of course. This is the author. But never mind when it ends, what does it actually officially start? Robert says the team does have a laundry list of base features that need to exist before the game can be brought out of alpha. like crafting, base building, as well as, and this is a rudimentary summary of what he explained to me, planet tech that imbues real rules, like erosion, environmental considerations like humidity and temperature to inform how each planet is formed and evolves. That's the least impressive thing on the list for anybody who's following this list, you know? Like, he says it's a rudimentary summary, needs a little caveat, but the planet tech is the one thing that I know Star Citizen can do. I think we'll be seeing that later this year. Let's move on to more of what Chris Roberts is saying shows the success of the game so far and how it's doing. The author says, one point Roberts eventually emphasizes to me is that like any other early service access game, Star Citizen is currently playable. Quote from Chris, unless you're actively checking it out or playing it, a lot of people go, oh, it's not finished yet, but it's a game that has more functionality and more features than most released games do right now. It may have more bugs, but there's more things that you can do in Star Citizen today than you can do in pretty much most other games just because of the style of the game and scope. There are things you can do in Star Citizen that you can't do in other games, that's for sure. And I will agree with him. While I'm not going to say it's like a whole game that you should be playing, people do have the wrong idea of what it is. Like the fact that this article is just, is it a real video game? This is going to be no news to all of you guys watching this, but a lot of folks don't realize you can even jump into the game. He said, we have quite a few content creators and streamers. I think that's probably one of the reasons why we've done so well. It's not us doing slick ads or trying to buy user acquisition or anything. It's more like, oh, look, here's someone playing it and that looks cool. I want to check it out. No ads, huh? He said there were 54 million hours spent playing by the community last year. And we've always got tens of thousands of people concurrently playing at all times. Dude, I don't think he actually said this before. If you go back to the letter from the chairman, I do not believe he confirmed that. So this is the beginning of this year. He said that we had a record-setting 64 million hours played in Star Citizen last year, up from 48 million in 2024. To be clear and transparent, we did see some discrepancies between this number and the number in the last letter from the chairman, so I don't know what's going on there. But he said, you set a new record in peak concurrency and daily active users, and we saw, unique daily users, and we saw huge increases in every metric, including 40 to 60% increases in daily average users and average peak concurrency. So no numbers mentioned here. He says the numbers to back it up, but they did not give us any numbers of concurrency. This is, I think, the first time that I've seen Chris in a long time reference how many people are actually playing the game. If it is tens of thousands at all times, that's pretty healthy. After this, he gets a little bit into the talks he had with some of the backers. So this is one of the more interesting parts because it talks to people who play the game. And it shows people who don't play the game that people who play the game are still not just like all in all the time. It says, a few weeks earlier, an acquaintance named Emily surprised me when they revealed that they were an exceptionally avid Star Citizen player. After speaking to Roberts, I contacted Emily to find out more about how she became so involved. She said, for the first 2 years, I played daily. These days, I log in every month or so to check out the new content. I enjoy PvE missions like clearing out bunkers full of bad guys or rescuing pilots under attack. I also love a spot of cargo hauling and salvaging. Perfect way to unwind while watching something on your second monitor. She said she's invested just shy of $5,000 into Star Citizen and is effusive when describing the game's current appeal. I don't know any other games that offer what Star Citizen does, the incredible depth and realism of the gameplay and the immersion that it brings. You can truly lose yourself in it. It's a masterpiece, both visually and technically. Now, he also followed up with one of our favorites, Mr. Croncy, a prominent Star Citizen creator, the absolute most impressive beard I think I've ever run into. He says he was relatively late to the party, jumping in around 2019 after doing Eve. And he said, I feel like getting heavily into the game in 2019 was a godsend, as through my own investigations in the first 6 years of development, things were rough. Yeah, no kidding. I've gotten to see real progress in content delivery for the first half of Star Citizen's experience. He said that he's invested in the ballpark of $3,000, an amount he frames as probably the least he's ever spent on a hobby, comparing it to things like Magic the Gathering and Warhammer. And he indicates that he hasn't spent anything in the last 3 years. That's kind of like where I am. But I think a lot of folks are in that position. Buy in, you get some of the stuff you want, and then you just kind of sit and wait, see what happens. He basically goes on to say, look at these people, look at how much they've spent, look at how much they play, and listen to the fact that they are able to say they're not all in. They know that it has problems. They are acknowledging that it might not work, that kind of thing. I think this is just the, qualification stage. He talks to another player here who he got into Star Citizen on a dare, he says. The attraction, oddly enough, was a buddy and I going, this sounds like a scam, but what if? We bought the cheapest package, bare bottom version. Since then, I've put in about $100 more for a decent sized group ship. While he wasn't financially invested as Emily and Croncy, he seems to carry a similar level of enthusiasm. He describes the feeling of playing Star Citizen as a lot like Destiny. Sometimes you have great patches and updates, sometimes not. But for the most part, the majority of updates have been major W's. One thing he wasn't quite sure, this is the author, expecting from these highly invested players, however, was how willing they were to acknowledge the fact that Star Citizen is regularly wrangling with significant issues. Croncy said the game has problems, many problems. The scope of the game means major updates appear to throw everything out. Most Star Citizen players would agree that we're not the consumer. We're essentially people who paid to be on the QA or testing team. Very good statement. This is such a freaking good statement because every time CIG releases some mission or something that is in the game and obviously draws everyone into it and causes all this buckle and backup because everyone wants to see the newest thing, folks will just constantly, oh, it's a new event. It's all for the orgs. Nobody can go do this. It's all so crowded, forgetting that this is all being built for people playing the game in like 3 years. It's cool that we get to try it right now. I love it. I would hate it. I don't think this would even exist if people couldn't try this stuff out in the meantime. But it's not going to work how it's supposed to when it's all getting dropped as like a brand new kind of thing like that. And I think that's just like important context to have. All had the same caveat of these comments. Think that Cloud Imperium is one of the most transparent companies in the space. Weekly dev shows, monthly progress builds, devs hopping in streams to discuss their work, active threads. It's the first time I've ever seen a company this open. There are still issues. That was Croncy, this is Emily. There are still issues which sometimes make playing the game challenging, but the transparency on the direction and progress of development has always been first class. And then Jingor said, most importantly, they acknowledge their faults quite a lot, which I appreciate. They seem to be listening quite a lot, even for the major babies. Some of the player base can be. This Jingor guy. He says, don't get me wrong, a lot of people are upset about how long it's taking. But at the end of the day, what they have here is in the alpha is playable. It's good. It's genuinely quite fun. And I think if they can button down these last few major features, it's going to be a banger. I'm thinking, I'm not going to read the rest of this. Most of it is just more talking to Chris. There's a lot here, man. This is a long article. But I think the biggest takeaway from this is that A, he's not going in on a proper date for 1.0. B, he's hedging on Squadron 42. Makes sense for an interview, like I think it was Brigadier that said. And C, they're trying to show that the people who are playing the game are not just like crazy fanatics. I think he could have asked them a little bit more about the problems they have with the game. Nobody who plays Star Citizen is going to be shy about saying that they have issues. And that's the biggest misconception I think folks have from not within the Star Citizen community, is they think that it's legitimately just a bunch of people who don't care if the game is good or not and are just throwing money for no reason. So there is a look at really what is starting to become the casual journalism that is forming around Star Citizen as we get closer and closer to, I think, a Squadron 42 release. I don't know what brought upon this interview. Edmond had a frank chat with Star Citizen's Chris Roberts. I don't know where that chat took place, or did they meet up? Did they call or what? But like I said, this is a pretty big name to be covering it. Maybe not in terms of print, but the YouTube side that follows this is fairly big, and I think that means that this will probably end up on SkillUp's YouTube channel at some point too. So there's some news for you. Hope you got something out of it. I don't know if I'd call it news, actually, more just like interviews. There's some interviews for you. Enjoy.